My humble respect to Guru Mahan, Guru Piran Sivasankaran, Guru Piranyo, fellow Jnanis. Today I'm going to cover chapter 22 of Mahan's I Got Philosophy. He speaks about Devas and angels, quite an interesting topic. I will describe what Devas and angels he speaks, Mahan, alludes to in his this chapter. And how do one experience angels or angelic qualities in our lives. And so first, let's try to understand what this thing called angels, or this substratum called angels, right? So I think all of us know angels, is some kind of celestial beings that are divine and harmonious. And you see that in this picture, normally angels are depicted with, someone floating in the air, with a trumpet, and then there's kind of a aura at the back of their head, and there is wings. And these are all kind of metaphorically, there's very deep meaning to this. And if you see when we see that someone, is flying in the air or in the celestial substratum, it is actually trying to tell us that, these beings are not caught up by the gravity of materiality. See, all of us are caught up by gravity, of course, from the earth, but also gravity of material world. And here, these celestial beings are not caught up by the gravity of materiality, both the sukha dukkha cycle, the birth death cycles, and so on. So that is why we see them, defying gravity, right? And the wings gives them that liberation from defying gravity. So again, a very interesting way of describing, this divinity with the picture. And we also see that there's a trumpet. Often there is a trumpet there. The trumpet there is actually that it's about actually the divine vibration or the divine rhythm or the Bhagavan's Geetam, which is actually the divine music that is resonating from this celestial divine being. So wherever they go, they have that divine vibration that they carry with them. They're able to dispel negativity and the core, people being caught up with this material world. So this divine vibration is what they carry with them. And you also see an aura that is around their head, and that's actually when you practice meditation, when you have that angelic qualities, you see that you emit the bioelectromagnetic force field that is, because you're, as I mentioned in my previous satsangs, that those who meditate intensively tend to have more elevated bioelectromagnetic force field because the brain grows certain parts of the neurons in the brain and the neural pathway that reinforces, and you have a lot of activities. And you also see that for many of them, they have certain parts of the brain that is much more grows, and sustains. And you see that there's a lot more electromagnetic field, and in some cases when it's so intensive you can see with the naked eye. So this is the aura that these celestial or divine beings have. All of us carry that aura. All of us carry the divine vibration and the aura with us. Of course, some can see it, some cannot see it, some can feel it, others cannot. So here we see that as we pursue this spiritual journey, you'll see that you'll have the experience of the devas and the angels in not the way that you may think it is. And I'm going to explain to you that you'll see it in a kind of a more, sublime and divine and more kind of a inner realm that you discover. So this is to give you why angels are depicted in this way. So let's define what that angel actually means. So I started looking at what angel actually means. And there are many definitions. So I'll take the ones that are most, pertinent to our discussion here. And often angels are described as a spiritual being in some religions, in many religions. And it's kind of seen as a kind of a messenger from God or the divinity. And it is kind of coming through a human form. It takes on a human form. So we know that the creator is at a frequency that far higher than we Homo sapiens, or the divinity that is plugged into the matter and energy bodies. So while the divinity has higher order of frequency, when it's connected to matter and energy, it carries a particular frequency, maybe slightly lower or lower than the creator itself. So we see that everything in this universe is connected to this divine universal force. And the angels and most human beings don't aren't able to cognize this higher level order or the frequency. And interestingly, in many scriptures, to ensure that people understand this divinity, various symbols and metaphors and examples are given to depict this divine force. And oftentimes, human beings only relate to the human form, and you see that this divinity is represented in the form of humans. So they can relate to their own humanly circumstances. And we see that these angels, which are of higher order, the force that is of higher order, is seen to be taking on a human form, but naturally defying many humanly qualities, as I mentioned earlier, of defying the Sukha Dukkha cycle, the birth-death cycle, the material push and pull, the forces of push and pull. So we see that while it takes on a humanly form, but it defies many of the material forces. So we see that, angels are described in this kind of a humanly, but a higher order, more subtle form. And interestingly, it carries the same force that powers everything in this universe, including us humans and all the other sentient beings, including insentient beings. The force covers from atoms to molecules to more complex beings. But angels here represent that higher order humanly form, but is transcendental to many of the material forces. So this is what angels. So we've got the definition of what an angel is. So at a much more humanly level, we see that as I mentioned earlier, the divine force is plugged into everything. And while this description of angel is humanly formed, a celestial being, sometimes we can't see it. We kind of describe it, in many scriptures they have described this, but we don't see it. They make very elaborate discussion of the Vaikunta or heavenly bodies and so on. But coming down to that same divine force that is plugged into the celestial beings and the celestial substratum, when we come down to the humanly form, we see that that power is also powered in we, as I mentioned, in all matter and energy, including us, who is also from a physiological perspective, we are matter and energy, and there is something that is powering us. And we see that, there are many people that we've come across, but this divine quality of the celestial beings, as we said, earlier, has got, good values and virtues, and the values of virtue and virtues include universality, caringness, having, that empathy and all those things, as we see in most of the celestial beings and celestial entities. If you look at all our planets, if you look at the sun, all of them don't discriminate. They just are in a harmonious orbit. They do their jobs, they don't complain, they get on with their work. The sun shines to everyone, whether someone respects the sun or does not respect the sun, or is good or bad, it's equally. So that's the kind of virtues that these celestial beings and celestial entities have. And we see that among humans, there are people that carry that quality. People who are very good, very helpful, very kind, have a lot of empathy. There is caringness, there's compassion. There is the sense of peace and harmony, like all those other celestial entities in this universe. There's a sense of serenity, there's a sense of equanimity. So we see this qualities, the divine qualities that we describe that celestial beings as angel is also in all the atoms, the molecules, in sentient beings, and the sentient beings, including humans. And we see that it comes in the form of teachers, it comes in the form of parents, it comes in the form of many, many beings that we encounter in our lives. And here I'm showing a picture of how a teacher is teaching, students on this divine knowledge and how to live in both the eternal and also the material universe. And as I mentioned, teachers come in the form of our parents and school teachers and the guru. So here Swamiji makes a very important statement that it says that these teachers are like angels. These gurus are like angels to show us the path. And even Mahan himself had, angels that guided him. I mean, mortal angels that guided him. And he has a lot of reverence and, respect from, these angels now I'm describing in the context of the mortal body. Angels also come in the form of, scriptures and books and songs that inspire one. So here we see that the guru teaches the disciples on what life is about. And many of them do it without any expectation or, but accept all the criticisms, But what is very interesting from Mahan's perspective, he says that these gurus come in different forms. He says that for every human being, the mother is very important guru, because she what belongs to the mother is actually the umbilical cord, because the mother gives the physical form of our existence, and so does the father. And father, the most important part is father also contributes to the DNA and the structure of that being, particularly head, and the spinal cord comes from the father. And he says that what belongs to us is actually our third eye, or our intellectual curiosity in our mind. That is also a guru. That's what enlightens us, gives us illumination, gives us consciousness. And the final one is that the guru is the universal substratum that teaches one to value the parents, value, yourself, and more importantly, value everything in creation. So Mahan used to say that in Tamil, Taiki Sundam Toplu, Tau Sundam Uchi, Tanaka Sundam Netri, Guru Sundam Yavum. He says here, as I mentioned, that the guru teaches you to value your parents, the physical gurus, value yourself, the divine guru in you, and the whole creation. So here, so they come in the form of angels, and some, children recognize this. There's a lot of, reverence for their parents and teachers and gurus and the people that, nurtured and prune and help them develop. So these are, mortal angels that guide us to that spiritual realm within us. So here, he says that our mindset is very important of this Devas and Gurus, because they play a key role in helping us transition from being selfish to selfness, to become focused inward, to becoming selfless, and finally to become self-realized. And when does an angel come into our lives? So when we are ready, when our mind is ready, when our focus is to understand and discover who we are, and understand and discover, have empathy for society and others, we see that the guru will manifest. So when a person is ready, the guru comes in different forms. It comes in the form of a book, it comes in the form of a teacher, it comes in the form of a friend, it comes in the form of a parent, it comes in the form of a professor, it comes in the form of your neighbor. So guru manifests in different ways, but it only manifests when the disciple is ready. So otherwise, when the disciple is not ready, they're meandering in this material world, caught up with this Sukha Dukkha cycle, birth death cycle. You see that the appearance of the guru, though the guru is there, they're unable to cognize the guru clearly. So hence the value for that is not there. So again, we see that as the person is ready, when the mind becomes inward and start searching and there's greater clarity on what the objective in life is, the guru or the angel manifests. So again, coming back to this angel that we describe as have very good, helpful, kind, having good virtues and values, we see that the guru is like the spiritual mother that gives life to a new person. Right? We all have our own kind of knots in our head, meandering the material world in our own ways, going through Sukha Dukkha cycle, worried about birth, death, worried about disease, worried about many, many things in life. And we get caught up in this in this material world, unable to come out of it. So, but the guru is like the spiritual mother. So you have a physical mother that gives birth to the body, and then you take over after a certain period. And sometimes we have the skill sets to manage it. Most times we don't. And we look out to teachers and the gurus to guide us. Most of our teachers teach us about the material world, but many go to teachers that teach us about the self or the inner realm. Of course, we have various religious teachings that people go to. Again, how attuned is that person going to those religious teachings and going deeper to understand the true essence of it. So here, a guru here is that, when one is ready, as I mentioned, the guru or the spiritual mother appears that gives life to a new person in ourselves. So there's a rebirth in ourselves that, and they start permeating the values of peace and harmony and greater value to oneself. Before we did not have value. We think life is, just managing life and, wake up, go to work, come back, or go to school, come back. So there's a sense of meaning and purpose of life is not there. But the guru flicks it back and said, look, you've been blessed with this divine life. The divinity is permeating in you. Focus the mind to that, and you'd start seeing a greater value of yourself. You get greater peace, you get greater harmony, you get greater value, you become more productive, more creative, and you're able to see that divine force, that creator within you. So the guru flips you from outside to inside, that journey, from that selfishness of craving for material things to that selfness, that something far greater value that resides in all of us. And one then becomes selfless, the expansion of one's universe from oneself to a greater universe, and finally realizing the true potential of oneself. So we see this angels that come into our lives in many, many different forms to, completely shift our mind and give us this new way of thinking, new life to be able to eventually start self-reflecting. So the search outside, we've often been outside searching for something, a meaning and a purpose. And the guru teaches us, no, start looking within. And as we start reflecting within ourselves, the mind that has a lot of ripples, a lot of waves that distorts who we are, starts calming down. As it starts calming down, we start seeing our own inner reflection. And we start experiencing our inner reflection, which is transcendental, which is exactly the qualities of that angels that are in the celestial beings, which is transcendental to the Sukha Dukkha, transcendental to the birth cycle, birth death cycle, have the harmony, the trumpet that is continuously reverberating, the divine vibration that is continuously reverberating, and you start feeling your own tejas and your ojas, which is your aura, that is permeating from within. So that self-reflection that the Guru shifts you starts focusing now on that self, which is that. When I say self here, means the first S is actually about the silence within ourselves. In the silence, we experience the mind that is calm. In that calm water, we experience that expanded state of our consciousness. And then that is the E in itself. And then we see that as that happens, we attain that L, which is the liberation, that celestial being that is transcendental to the gravity of materiality. And finally, we attain that, hey, the finality is that that celestial being that is described in all the scriptures and all the masters are embedded within us, core within us. That's how the Creator's embedded in everything in this universe. Our mind that has been focused on the materiality starts experiencing the divine Creator's force. And we start seeing this happening, and we see that our mind becomes unperturbed. Our mind becomes so resilient. I say this thing, our mind becomes smart. What do I mean by smart? It becomes, the S is actually seamlessly integrated with everything, like the Creator. It's embedded in everything. The M in the smart is actually two things, which is actually morality or principle. You understand the principle of life really well, and you go by the principle. And the other aspect is mobility. Your mind now is able to navigate all the terrains of Sukha Dukkha and not be perturbed by it. And you would not say, I cannot do it. It's no problem. If there's challenges that are ahead of me, I know how to navigate this through. So the mind becomes seamlessly integrated and access that knowledge to be mobile across all the terrains in our lives in different circumstances in different stages of our lives. The third door in the smart is actually our mind becomes more agile. Our mind is able to accept and become kind of flexible in addressing things and not be impacted by anything. The R in that smart is actually resilience. The mind can withstand any amount of challenges but still be polished, you see. And the last aspect of the T, the mind in the smart, is actually it becomes transcendental and transformative. It's transcendental to, like the celestial beings or the angels, but it's continuously transforming and expanding and becoming more and more universal. And that happens when we have an unperturbed mind. There's a self-reflection that the gurus and the angels taught us that shows that within us lies a divine substratum, the celestial qualities of an angel. So we see that, when we start doing that, what are the key milestones that we see? We see that, when we do this, there's a change. I said there's a new person that is born. Our thoughts starts changing, right? Before we may be, very negative or afraid of things or lack that courage or the will to do things. We see that we start, having more noble thoughts, more, can-do thoughts, wanting to explore, thoughts that are more divine, thoughts that are more caring, thoughts that are more generous, thoughts that are more, empathy. There's this sense of oneness, you know, uh, So you see that thoughts become more and more noble. And you can see that, the people that you had challenges, the people that gave you a hard time, the people you did not like, the things that you did not like, slowly, slowly starts changing. And you learn to accept, you learn to assimilate it, you learn to, integrate it and use that as foundation for an enlightened living. As that thoughts become more angelic and more divine, we see that our words too become more gentle, graceful. Even though we want to scold somebody, we do it in a very gentle and a very kind way. We don't use harsh words. So we see that, our words, what we speak becomes more inspirational, more developmental, and that's what angels do. You see, you don't see angels you know uh, having very harsh tones, very harmonious, and you see your speech becomes more harmonious. The same thing also happens to actions, right? Our own behavior becomes more and more uh, you know uh, caring, more and more divine, more and more graceful. And nobody needs to see this. It's you who would be able to experience this first, right? And if you see that your thoughts, you still harbor a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of, you know, uh, turbulent thoughts, a lot of harsh thoughts, then you still have a long way to go. But you should be, as you practice this, you should be seeing the changes in yourself and the words that come out of, and the actions. And you can actually see this thing within you. You'd experience this. This is what self-reflection, self-development, and self-discovery. And it's shown by masters and the angels that walk into our lives. So as our thoughts and words and actions change, we see that we don't then rely on celestial beings externally to make that transformation. And Guru Piran Sankaran used to say, don't expect an angel, be the angel. And to be that angels, the gurus, the angels that come into our lives actually nudge and shift our focus to discover the angel within all of us, right? And that's what self-realization actually means. Uh, True angels that come into our life don't expect anything. They just want you to realize that you carry the same force as the creator and everything that is powering this creation, including us. So this is what, great saints and sages tell us, that look, don't expect a celestial being to come and rescue or give you good blessings. The blessing is ourselves. So this is what in this chapter Swamiji speaks about. Um, he says that, in the early days, he himself thought, there were celestial beings, but as refinements took place in himself, he realized that actually everything starts, sustains, and ends with us, including this divine qualities. And when we discover that, we see that actually, we are all blessed with this creator's force, right? And if we learn to harness it, we see the creator in all the creation, including ourselves. And that is what I learned from Mahan's teachings.